Welcome to the Rural Revival Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Larson. This week we're sitting down with Randa Starnes of Tennessee River Music Company, a registered Hereford and Angus operation in Fort Payne, Alabama. Randa's talking about life on their family's cattle production farm, what it's like to grow up with a famous dad, and how they unexpectedly grew their operation with a new business venture. So here we go with Randa Starnes. All right, well, we are here today with Randa Starnes of Tennessee River Music Cattle Ranch in Fort Payne, Alabama. Randa, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you grew up showing cattle like a lot of our listeners, but you actually had a very unique upbringing as well. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I guess my upbringing was a little different. My dad is with the group Alabama. The country group Alabama. And so that's kind of all I ever knew growing up was, I guess, having a famous father, as everybody always said. To me, he was just dad, but definitely made things a little different growing up. And even showing cattle, going to different shows and everything, I guess everybody kind of already knew who I was when I got there. I couldn't really sneak in and just pop up. Everybody would see Dad come in and they're like, oh no, she's here. There's Randa. And I'm like, dang it. I just wanted to show up and leave and nobody know that I was here. And, but yeah, life was definitely different growing up with a celebrity as a dad. And I always say it's kind of a blessing and a curse. And I hate saying that because people think, oh, she's being ungrateful, or it's just got such a negative connotation to it. But I think people always look at the good that goes with that, and they don't ever really stop to think about the other side of it and how, I don't know, like when I would go places, people already have their opinion formed of me, maybe just because of being associated with my dad, or, oh, well, she must be like this because, she's the daughter of Randy Owen. And that kind of stinks,
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's made me who I am today, and it's made me a better person. So I'm appreciative of it because I look at things a lot differently than I think a lot of people would, because I've been on the other end of a lot of the conversations and, people kind of talking behind your back, or like I said, they think that they know who you are, or, oh, she's just a snob, or she's not very nice. And like, I've never talked to that person in my life, know. Which I know a lot of people deal with that, not just me, not just the kids of celebrities, but it's really unfair. And not to be Debbie Downer, but I think there's just a whole other side to it that people don't ever really stop to think about, that these people have kids too. And growing up in Fort Payne, I was very fortunate though. I had wonderful friends. I went to a great school. So I wasn't ever really treated differently there, and I guess by a few people maybe, but we won't name names. But yeah, I'm very fortunate to grow up in a small town. Dad never was about the whole Nashville scene. He loved growing up in Fort Payne, living on Lookout Mountain, and I'm so thankful that we got to experience that as well growing up. So we grew up in a small town on a cattle ranch, and that's how Dad kind of wanted to raise us. So yeah, but it's always been interesting. There's never a day that goes by that there's not some curveball thrown my way, being who I am, good and bad. And like I said, I'm not dwelling on the bad. My life has been wonderful, and I'm so blessed. There is just that aspect that I always say I would love to write a book, because there are so many times that we have been out and they'll say something to me or to my dad, and I stop and I'm like, I cannot believe that person just said that. But I think because they think that they know the life of a celebrity or their kids, or that they feel like they can say whatever they want to, or the fact that I sit and read stuff about my dad sometimes, and it hurts my feelings. And I'm like, not everybody has to deal with that. Not everybody has to see, their dad's name, all over the paper or the internet or something like that. And so people, they just don't really realize and stop and think, like, these people have kids too,
Yeah.
know. So back to the showing cattle side of things, I started when I was 11. And growing up on the farm, I loved it. I loved every aspect of checking cows and calving cows and feeding cows, and never was much into sports or anything like that. And so my parents, being involved with youth activities and stuff in the Hereford Association, they asked me if, what I thought about showing cattle. And so I went up one summer to junior nationals I think it was in Michigan in 1999, and just kind of checked it out and fell in love with it. And so I started showing in 2000 and showed for 11 years. And I was fortunate enough to raise a national champion, and I bought and showed another national champion and several division winners, and showed all across the country, and made just some wonderful friends doing it, that they're still some of my dearest friends today. And like we were talking about earlier, it's just so great how we could go anywhere in the country, and if we ever broke down or needed help in another state, there would always be a friendly, smiling cattleman there, to come save the day. And so it's great. We have friends all over, and several people that I still keep in touch with from showing. So it's wonderful.
So you actually ended up then meeting your husband in college at Auburn,
Yes.
who has a similar background.
Oh, yes. Although he did show Angus cattle. But I won't hold that against him. No. Yeah, we both grew up showing cattle in Alabama, and both went to Auburn University and had several of our undergraduate courses together, and always kind of had our eye on each other. And then finally our senior year kind of started talking and realized we kind of both wanted the same things in life. We both were animal science pre-vet undergrad, and kind of decided we wanted to take a little different route and maybe go back to my family farm and, raise our own cattle and that sort of thing. So we both graduated with our animal science degrees, went on to graduate school, and John got his master's in ruminant nutrition, and I got mine in animal welfare. So we, big time Auburn family, I guess, but very fortunate that we met back up at Auburn and could move back home to my family farm. So.
Yeah. So what has that been like? I mean, this was your childhood farm, and now you're running it.
Yeah, it's you look at it with completely different eyes when you move back home, and suddenly everything's thrown in your lap, and it's like, okay, now you do it. It's exciting, and it'll scare you to death all at the same time. And so, Dad, he was saying, he was really excited that we decided to come back, and take over our family operation. And then John and I both were very fortunate that we had a place to come back to. But with that being said, you have to hit the ground running. I mean, there's so much that we thought we knew 6 years ago coming out of school. Here we are. Oh, we have our graduate degrees. We know everything. We've grown up on the farm. And then you come back, and like I said, it's all up to you and your decision making. And we always said we're never gonna make a mistake just sitting on our hands. We're going to mess up trying at least. And so we've learned a lot in our 6 years, some good, some bad. But we're very, very fortunate that we had a place to come back to, to raise our family and kind of live out our dreams.
Definitely. And you said something earlier that I thought it was a great point, that farmers, you use all these different skills on a daily basis.
Yes. I mean, that's what I tell people. You use life skills, you use math, science, any sort of business, insights that you've learned in college, or, people skills. It's a people business too. And so, every day it's a juggling act, kind of what am I going to have to do today? Am I going to have to pull on my animal science degree? Am I going to have to lean a little more on ag finance? Am I going to have to lean a little more on my, social marketing kind of skills? So it encompasses so much. And it's definitely not just a one-track kind of thing. And I think a lot of people, at least for us, they say, what do y'all do? Oh, well, we run cattle. We run about 700 head. We do this, we do that. Oh, okay, well, that's cool. And people really, they don't stop to think, what all it means to actually run an operation. So it is, every day, it's kind of what makes it exciting is you don't really know what each day will bring. So everything's kind of different. And it makes it challenging as well, but it makes it fun, at least for us.
And definitely an adventure.
An adventure for sure.
Well, you also, on top of everything else you have going on, you host a couple of annual sales.
Yes,
so
we do.
Tell us about that.
Yes, so we have our female production sale every May. And we sell around 80 head in that. And we'll actually have our 35th production sale in the spring. I say we. My dad will have his 35th. I guess I'll have my 31st next year. And then in the fall, we have our bull sale. And we'll sell around 80 bulls in the fall.
Awesome. That's great. And you mentioned that you're doing all video this year. So that's something new, right?
Yes, new. And, we've kind of been teetering back and forth, but it's one of those things. There's several people that have used the all video sales. And I think especially on the bull sale side of things, like we were talking about, as far as just the bulls getting fired up, or, you start getting bulls up and they start to fight, or, you can get a really good bull hurt. Or a bull that's, normally great out in the pasture, you start getting him up and trying to pin him up and running through a cell ring, and he'll just get fired up kind of for no reason. So I think it'll work great on the bull side of things. I think for the female side, we might always kind of keep it just our traditional sale. But we'll see how it goes. We're always up to try something new. And like how we were talking about with the technology and all the new things kind of coming our way with agriculture and ranching and all that, it's always neat to try something new. So
absolutely. And you also help take care of some of the office side of the farm stuff, right?
Yes. I'm very much the computer, record keeping, bookkeeping, accounting, I guess you can call manager here at the farm. My husband really prefers to stay outside and stay off of a computer if he can help it. So I try in the morning, and by afternoon, I like to kind of have my stuff wrapped up, and I love getting outside and riding around and checking cows with John and our kids. And but yep, definitely have to make sure I have all my office stuff rounded up. And I've actually been doing that since I was 16.
Wow.
So yeah, I kind of got thrown into it actually. We had a need, and I kind of stepped up and had to learn. On the purebred side of things with the Hereford and Angus, having to turn in birth weights and weaning weights and all that sort of thing. I'd never had to do that. And so I kind of had to learn, and actually been doing it since I was 16. So I've just kind of automatically taken on that role, I guess. And nobody has seemed to want to step up and replace me. So either I'm doing a good job or just nobody wants that job.
That's good. What does it mean to you to get to do all of this alongside your husband?
Oh, I can't imagine doing anything else. I hear people all the time, they say, "Oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine working with my spouse." And I get it. I mean, there are some days like picture pin day. And anybody in the livestock business, they will totally get it. By the end of picture pin day, it's like going through marriage counseling. We dread it. Every year it comes around, but there is just nobody else in this world that I would want to work alongside. We have the same goals, the same dreams. We love it. We live and breathe it. And the fact that we get to sit and make all these decisions together, and through our ups and downs, we have calves die, and stuff that happens that nobody wants to have to go through, but we get to go through it together. And there's challenges along with it. When we get home, all we do is talk about cows, and sometimes I'm like, okay, let's just time out. Let's talk about something else. Let's try not to bring work home. And that's really difficult when you live on a ranch, because we literally live on the ranch. And it's our job. And so there are some times we have to just step back and take a breather and talk about something other than cows. But we love it, and the fact that I get to spend every day with him working is just something I'm so thankful for.
That's great. What role do your kids play in all of this that you have going on?
So we have Harper Rose is 4. She will be 5 later this month. And then John Owen is 16 months. And they absolutely love farm life. They go out and help us check cows and count cows. That's really the big thing. So now that Harper can really count, she can get on up there, she loves helping count cows. And John Owen thinks that he's doing the same. And I always tell people it's a funny story. When Harper was about 2.5, she would go out every morning in the feed truck with me. And I would flip the switch, on the feed, and I would count about 30 seconds in each feed bunk. Well, I didn't pay attention that she was just sitting there, watching and listening to everything I was doing. So one day she starts counting with me, and, she's 2.5, and she counts like all the way up to 20. And I'm like, where in the world did you learn? And she goes, well, Mama, you count to 30. And so I was like, you know what? She's sitting here, watching and listening to me. And so I always tell people, I'm like, it's amazing what they pick up on the farm, just common sense, kind of walking around kind of stuff. And she learned that she learned how to count to 30 from feeding cows with me. So they are very much involved in everything that we do. And, I hope Harper, she'll be 5. So I hope she kind of gets into showing cattle. We're going to try it out, and not going to force her to, but with both of us growing up showing, I really hope that, one of them, if not both of them, will show like we did. But I just don't think there's any better way you can raise your kids than on a farm. It's wonderful. They get out and get filthy and play in mud holes and help us sort cows. And then they go to school and they talk about, all this farm talk. And I just know one day we're going to get a phone call. But they at least, all the teachers know that we're on a farm, so they understand if something comes out of their mouth that maybe they're not supposed to be talking about. But they're great kids, and they just love it. So it's kind of in their blood. So hopefully they'll stick around and take over the place after. John says we'll never retire. We'll just expire on the farm. So
that's good.
So hopefully the kiddos will stick around and help us out when we get older. So,
well, in addition to the ranch, you also have a bull collection facility.
Yes. So back in 2014, there was a Gen X facility down the road that we utilized for several years, taking our bulls up there to be collected, storing semen there. And the facility actually came up for sale in 2014. And they had approached us about it a couple of times, and John and I, we went back and forth on it so much. And, kind of thought our plate was pretty full on the farm. And then it went up for auction. We went up there that day, and in our minds, we thought, okay, this would be a great barn for our donors. There's herd bull runs. We could just, bring our herd bulls up here. So we really thought we could just utilize the facility. So we actually ended up purchasing it that day, and we were approached by so many people asking if we were going to, keep it up and running. And we were kind of blown away by that. We didn't even really think, okay, we were going to have our own custom collection place. We've been on the other side of it, but we've never been the ones running it. So how in the world would we even get started? So long story short, we kind of go back and forth, negotiating on different pieces of equipment, and kind of just decided we were going to go all in with it because it was a need for our area. I think the closest collection facility is about 6 hours away. And then for our friends, east of us, it's even farther. So we decided, what the heck, let's try it. And it has been amazing, the business that we have gotten from that. And we've been so fortunate with it. It's one of those things you can't make people come, do business with you. And so it made me really nervous because I kind of didn't have control over, I can't force people to bring their bulls. But, like I said, it's a people business and it's all about customer service. And people loved the fact that it was kind of a family-owned business. We were the ones in there day in and day out running it. And people told us that time after time, they loved dealing with us. And just being able to pick up the phone and call us and say, hey, how did our bull do today or whatnot. So it's been a great business for us. And it's kind of a great little asset to have kind of in the same realm as the ranch and all that, but still something a little different. We can utilize it, but we've had some wonderful customers, in the Southeast to really support us, and we have been so appreciative for it. And so we're going on our 4th year, and it's been great. Surprisingly, it's been great.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, you kind of take a leap of faith, and we kind of went all in and didn't really know how we were going to come out in the end. And John and I have put a lot of work, a lot of time in that place. And it's been really great.
Well, I'm so glad. And what advice would you have for someone thinking about coming back to run the family farm or to take on a new business? I know you mentioned you learn a lot along the way, but what would you say to someone thinking about that?
I know with a family farm, and we spoke on it earlier when we were riding around, there's so much wisdom that your grandparents or your parents have, that I know it's really difficult for them to just kind of turn the reins over. And I think it's important that it's kind of a balancing act. You want to come in and there's so many things that you see that you want to change, and they're doing it the old way and we need to do it the new way, or I don't like the way Dad did that, or we need to breed this way. And I think it's important just to stop and really visit with them and kind of see maybe why they did it that way, because they're the ones that have been in business all this time, so obviously something they were doing was working. And so I get it that there is newer ways of doing things or new methods, but it's a balancing act. And I think, you can bring the old in with the new and, still keep them very much involved. And don't forget, just don't forget why they did what they did, because some of the things you might not be too crazy about, but like I said, they've got some pretty good ideas of why they did what they did, and why they're still, and why and how they're still in business, So I think that's so important for any sort of family operation. And just anybody starting their own business, kind of like us with the bull facility, you've got to put the time in, and people want to deal with you. At the end of the day, it's mine and John's name on that business. It's not our employees, it's us. And so, if we're not up there, making sure that everything is run as smoothly as it can, if we're not the ones up there, talking to the people, and getting any sort of feedback from our customers, people, they just want to know that you're involved. They don't want to just see a face associated with the business. They want to know that it's personal to them. And I get that. If I can call a place and talk to the owner, and I know it doesn't happen all the time, but if you can get to know a face with the name, that means a lot to people.
Especially in a small town.
Yes, exactly. And like I said, it is all about customer service. It really is. And making people feel like you appreciate their business. And I know I'm the same way. I want to go to a place that I feel like I'm appreciated. And so it means a lot. And don't ever forget who your customers are.
Absolutely. What does it mean to you to live in a small town?
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I know people think it's crazy. And I remember growing up with everybody that it's like, oh, I can't wait to leave. And guess what? They're all back here dropping their kids at school off with me. And all they say is how much they love living in a small town. And it means it takes on a totally different meaning when you have kids too. Just living here close to my parents and John's parents and getting to take my kids around the farm, getting to take them to places that I used to go to as a kid, it just means the world to me. And I love the laid back. I love the laid back lifestyle. It's safe. It's just home. There's no place that will ever feel like home, like our little small town. And so I can't imagine raising my kids anywhere else.
Yeah, it's a pretty good life.
Yeah, it is. It is.
What's next for Tennessee River Music and even for your bull facility? What do you guys have on the horizon?
Well, so we're going to try to expand a little bit at the bull facility. It's a good problem. We have kind of outgrown some parts of our facility, and so we're going to kind of expand some pen sizes and do some rearranging on that way as far as being able to accommodate more bulls coming in. And so that's always a great problem to have.
Yes.
Then, for the ranch, we're just going to kind of keep chugging along. There's just when you think you're got everything figured out, man, you just hit a speed bump. Something comes along the way and it's just like, that doesn't make sense. I can't figure it out. And so just kind of, I don't know, trying to hone in on our craft as far as breeding cattle that work in the Southeast. We are kind of in an area, we're in fescue country. And so it can kind of hammer cattle. And it's very frustrating sometimes because buying cattle from here and there that are naive to this area, oh boy, you can pull your hair out trying to figure it out sometimes. And even cattle that are raised right here on Lookout Mountain, they can have a hard time with it as well. So just trying to really hone in on developing the perfect, or for us, the perfect cow as far as, the conditions that we live in, getting her to breed back when she's supposed to, staying, in good flesh on the grass that we have. I don't know if you ever would, get to that point of being able to say, yep, we did it. I think we would always keep trying to make them better and better. And as silly as that sounds, that's just, I think anybody in the cattle business feels that way. You always feel like, that's not quite good enough. I can always do better. And something that, we've really started with this being our 5th bull sale. We used to just sell in private treaty and selling about 100 bulls a year now. And John John is the bull man. And so he would like to grow that eventually to selling probably around 200 or so bulls a year. We kind of got to work our way up to it, and build some newer bull facilities. The 2-year-old bulls can get a little rowdy, and they can have their way with fencing and all that. So, but that'll all come with time. So just kind of maybe working our way up selling bulls as well.
Great. Well, how do people keep up with what you guys have going on, and where can we find you online?
Yeah, so we our website is TennesseeRiverMusic.com, and then we have a Facebook page and an Instagram as well. And I try to keep everything kind of fresh and new. And one thing I don't want people to ever think is that I'm trying to cram just sell stuff, at them all the time. So I always try to put just interesting things going on the farm every day. We have a lot of people follow us, who are maybe more from the music side, who want to follow along on the farm page. And so I think it's so important to show them kind of what we do and why we do it, just to, show people the importance of agriculture and kind of keep them informed. And so I love using our social media as kind of an outlet for that kind of thing as well. Not just talking about our sales and that sort of thing, but just kind of showcasing, what we do in agriculture on the ranching side of things.
All right. Well, we'll be sure to link to all of that in the show notes. Randa, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
I had a great time. It was wonderful.
Me too. All right.
Thank you.
Well, so true how Randa said moving back to the family farm is exciting and will scare you to death all at the same time. I loved hearing her talk about what it means to work alongside her husband, John, every day, and how they're involving their kids in the family business. And then also how they're navigating that transition of passing along the family farm to the next generation. Well, be sure to check out our show notes for the links to everything going on at Tennessee River Music. And thanks again to Randa for being on the podcast. We'll be back here next week. Have a great day, everybody.